Hey guys, Aaron here again. I'm going to be talking to you about another driver slash team from 2013. I can say driver slash team because I'm only doing one this time. The guy I have in mind is from a team that snuck into the chase, I would say, last year with a run of consistency after a big inconsistent struggle early in the year. It's a team that not a lot of people thought would make the chase, that everybody thought had potential to, a team that if they did think would get in with a win, but didn't actually end up getting a win. Now, if you put all this together, I'm of course talking about Kurt Busch and Furniture Row Motorsports. These guys kind of flew under the radar for the last, 5 years or so. They had Regan Smith for a long time. They're out in Colorado with no other NASCAR team for all that time. So, a lot of people don't even really know a whole lot about this team, except for the one win they had with Regan Smith, which was surprising and really solid at Darlington in 2011, I think. That was a really good win, had him going, and then Regan Smith always ran pretty good for him, but it was universally known that they didn't think they were going to get too far with him. They really didn't think they had any shot at a championship or even making the chase with him. They really thought they had a shot for many wins with him. And though they didn't get a win last year, getting Kurt Busch for a year was still a huge gain for this program. So let's just kind of talk about how he ran through the year. He started out at Daytona with some bad luck, and it didn't go too well for him. He ended up placing 28th after starting 11th. He had a really good ride. It just didn't work out for him. From there on, he really struggled with inconsistency. They would start mid-pack most races, and they started with finishes after Daytona of 27th and 20th. It's really a struggle. But early on in the season, they did show glimpses of the ability to go big with fourth and fifth back-to-back at Bristol and California. Now, Bristol's a short track, that's on driver skill, but California was the true shower here because that's one that requires a good car, a good engine. You've got to have a lot of horsepower to get around that track, good enough to get a top 5 or top 10. It's one of those tracks where the bigger type teams and your big engines usually pay off, and for Furniture Row to keep up with the big boys at that track, that RCR affiliation, and run that well was impressive. Kind of showed they had the potential to be big and run well, but they weren't able to capitalize on it because they had 237 finishes in a row at Martinsville in Texas, even after qualifying second at Texas. Really hurt them, but they were able to keep going after that and kind of every now and then, I guess, piece together a good run to keep themselves alive. They finished 15th at Kansas, Busch and Crow did. He got a 9th at Richmond, top 10, which was good, and then followed with a 30th at Talladega. And then the summer stretch kind of came on. They finished 5th in the All-Star race, good showing. Didn't win the big money, but still a good finish. And they kind of rode that. Over the next few weeks, they would finish really well. They finished 3rd at Charlotte, 12th at Dover, 7th at Pocono. He had a 35th place setback at Michigan, sadly, but then followed that up with a 4th at Sonoma, a 6th at Kentucky, and another 6th at Daytona. Now, all of this at the time had them doing pretty well. They were a little outside the top 12 in points, but they were still right there. They were fighting. A 31st in New Hampshire really hurt them, and then a 14th at the Brickyard didn't really help them. But after that, what really got them into the chase was the consistency they showed at the very end of the regular season. From Pocono through Richmond, they finished in the top 10 in every race except for one, a 31st place showing at Bristol that was due to an issue, even though they qualified second for that one. They were qualifying better, mostly in the top 10, the occasional bad spot, but they really just showed the kind of consistency you've never really seen from this Furniture Row team, and consistently good. They finished 3rd at Pocono, 9th at the Glen, 3rd at Michigan, 4th at Atlanta, 2nd at Richmond, dang near winning the thing. And all that together gave them enough points to get into the chase for the Cup, being 10th in the point standings. It was a huge deal for this team, by far their biggest accomplishment. They didn't have a win, but to be that consistent and get it without a win, honestly, I think is more impressive. And I was very, very impressed with this team. Now, once the chase started, things kind of went sour for them. They had some issues and struggled with mediocrity. They finished 4th at Chicago, really had them started off hot, but then a 13th at New Hampshire and a 21st at Dover. It didn't knock them completely out, but it really had them on the outside looking in really early on in the chase. Now, Kurt was able to come home second at Kansas with a solid showing and get them back into it a little bit, but the next 4 races would kill it. They finished 14th, 18th, 18th, and 17th in the next 4 races, and by that point they were pretty much out. By this point, it had been announced that Kurt Busch was actually not going to be back with Furniture Row. He's moving on to bigger and better things, but you can't blame him. He's going to Stewart Haas Racing. Gene Haas gave him an offer he really couldn't refuse. He's finally going back to a big name team, so congratulations for Kurt. And at this point, Furniture Row didn't really have a driver, but one big opening kind of gave him a shot at another good driver around this time. Um, Martin Truex Jr. had been in the chase and then out of the chase. He fell victim to the rest of his team, Michael Waltrip Racing's shenanigans, when Kurt Busch scratched his arm to get Truex into the chase. And it knocked Truex out because NASCAR took him out. And not only did that happen, but for some reason, the most innocent one in the group also lost his sponsor because Napa didn't feel like he was worth sponsoring anymore. So they hopped away from Truex, and that really, really hurt this team. They had to let Truex go, sadly, and luckily for Truex, this Furniture Row Motorsports opportunity was out, and he was able to take that. So they landed another good driver as the year was winding down, and they should be good there. But the finish with Kurt Busch, they got a top 5 at Phoenix, a really good showing, and kind of sadly, they finished 21st at Homestead. Never really looked that great. But this was still a pretty amazing year for this team. To take a driver who was trying to rise back up after a lot of issues, to put him in the car, have him behave pretty much all year, have him be a good driver, and really help this team become something better than they've ever been. It was very impressive. I loved watching it. I always love seeing the smaller teams succeed. And I really hope it's a sign of things to come. I think Truex is a really good driver, maybe not quite to the level of Kurt Busch, but Truex can still bring a level of talent and skill to this team that can keep it relevant and maybe even get them back in the chase, especially with the new format rewarding wins. Truex has shown he can win on pretty much any surface, although he's very rare for him. He won on road course, he's won at Dover. He looks decent usually on restricted plate tracks. I think that this is a team that can pull off a win somewhere. So they ended 2013 on kind of a mixed note, pretty high after running so good. Kind of sad losing their driver, but I think they have a lot to look forward to in 2014 also. Thanks, guys.